All right, people. Actually, my dear Aussies, I've been saying for a very long time that Anthony Albanese is the worst Prime Minister in Australia's history. Only until 6 months ago, Pauline Hanson was nowhere in the polls. Labour Party was still leading the polls, even though his fellow Labour politician in the UK, Keir Starmer, his rankings have gone through the floor pretty much ever since he came to power. Because as soon as he came to power, Southport happened, and then he responded like a tyrant, like a lefty lunatic, and he's been fighting for his survival ever since. But contrary to that, to my surprise, to my dismay, Anthony Albanese was relatively still enjoying, I would say, popularity. There was no other politician. He single-handedly destroyed Susan Ley, and then she was replaced. Actually, no, let's start back. He single-handedly destroyed Peter Dutton, even though I didn't like him, but I was still supporting him because I know he's the worst prime minister. He's going to be the worst. He's going to remain the worst prime minister in Australia's history. So he destroyed Peter Dutton, and then he destroyed Susan Ley, and now Angus Taylor also can't seem to dethrone him. But one woman has gained a lot of popularity in the last 6 months or so, and that is Pauline Hanson, for good reasons. Look at this. Now, this new poll just came out, and she has now become the preferred Prime Minister of Australia. 33%. This has happened for the first time, and this is Angus Taylor, our traditional Conservative Party's leader, which is called the Coalition. 16%. Anthony Albanese is still 29 for my liking. I don't know who these people are. I really don't know. This guy is the worst prime minister in Australia's history. He's single-handedly destroying Australia. And not only he's destroying Australia, he's actually very dumb. I often ask myself, why don't Keir Starmer, why don't Anthony Albanese, why don't they just read the room and try to even signal that, hey, we are listening to the public and we're going to do something about it. But no, instead of that, look what they're doing. So let me show something to you. So major polls, including studies by the Melbourne Institute and the Australian National University, consistently indicate that 53% to nearly 60% of Australians believe the current migration intake is too high. So everyone knows this. Just like in the UK, all these politicians across the board have been saying we will reduce immigration numbers. Anthony Albanese has been in power since 2022. It's been 4 years. Every year has been worse than the year before. He's bringing in people, and this is how much they insult the public. This is how much they hate the Australian public. They insult your intelligence. On the one hand, they keep promising we will lower the numbers, but on the other hand, they keep bringing in these people, and then they gaslight you. They say, well, in the UK, they were saying, we need nurses, we need doctors and engineers. That's why we need migrants. If you want to save the NHS, because the NHS is the Achilles heel of the British public, nobody wants to lose the NHS. So they say, oh, shut up. If you want to save the NHS, let us bring in all these people. That's their playbook. Find a topic, gaslight you, guilt trip you, and then justify these numbers. And in return, what they do, they bring in low-skilled workers. Even if they bring one nurse, they also, along with her, they bring in 5 or 6 other dependents who go on the welfare system. They suck the welfare system dry. And they did that in the UK, and they take you for fools that they are using the same tactics. The playbook is the same. In Australia, they're saying, we need more houses, and in order to have more houses, we need more construction workers. Look at this. This guy's horrible. If there's anyone in the Australian government I hate more than Anthony Albanese, it's this guy. Jim Chalmers is pretty close, but this guy is right up there. This guy is the most disliked person. He's so condescending. He's so smug. He gives actually, before I play you this video, let me play this video so you actually understand who he is. I'm going to keep playing this video until every Australian understands who this person is. Listen to him. He says no assimilation needed. You're an Islamist. You're a jihadi. You hate Western culture. You hate women in bikini. Don't worry. Come in. No assimilation needed. That's literally what he's saying. Listen to this clown.
The concept of immigration is people, when they come to Australia, want to be part of Australia. That's what people want. And I've never accepted the word assimilation. I don't want people to lose who they are. The word
Look how
integration
smug he
is one
is.
that's being
Look how
used
smug he is. Just look
as
at the
part of a
look at the
multicultural
smirk on
dialogue
his
for a
face.
very long time. And that's what it is. Like, we want people for who they are. I've never subscribed to that sort of melting pot concept that your whole identity is meant to be dissolved.
Pathetic. That's absolutely pathetic. And Australia's worst Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, has something similar to say. Listen to him.
I wonder what the distinction between Australians and migrants is, because I've never seen that used before in a country like ours. In a country like ours. You know,
Why do they all
we
make
have
the same
people
face?
who are in senior positions in our government, in business, you know, some of the giants of business in this country came here as refugees and as migrants. Are they separate from Australians?
Same virtue signalling. So according to them, you don't need to assimilate. You don't need to make any effort to learn about the Australian way of life. Just come as you are. We love you for who you are. Well, this guy, according to Tony Burke, doesn't need to assimilate. Islamic culture, the religion of Islam, teaches its adherents to hate the infidels. I'm not saying that. The Quran says it. The Hadith says it. And hundreds of Muslim scholars themselves say it. I've played those videos so many times before. So this guy was perfectly fine. He was just following his cultural upbringing. And according to Anthony Albanese, there's no difference between him and Steve Irwin. It's just an Aussie as Steve Irwin. They take you for fools. So why am I playing you this? I've already shown you this. Look at this. They're doubling down. Despite the fact that many polls have shown that Australians want the immigration numbers to be cut down, brought down to 100,000, 110,000, as it used to be before COVID. But they know the public is not happy. So the question is, why don't they change course? Well, I'll tell you why they don't change course. Because I was thinking, Keir Starmer can actually improve his ratings. He can suddenly try to change his tune. He can crack down on illegal migrants, maybe start deporting some of them. They tried that. The Home Office, Shabana Mahmood, did give those statements. But you know why they can't do it? Because they just don't have the political mandate. Even their own political bench, their backbenchers don't support them. They make fun of them. They say, no, we're not going to support any such action. So they just don't have the capability to solve our country's most major problems, issues that are causing civil unrest, anxiety, depression. People are unhappy. And look at this. They're doing the same thing in Australia. Australia will become like England faster than England did because we have a smaller population. We've only got two major cities, Melbourne and Sydney. That's it. Listen to them. He's saying that we need to bring in 400,000 more migrants so we can build houses. You know, we wouldn't need to build as many houses if you weren't bringing in that many people into Australia. How's that? Does this clown know anything about supply and demand? Probably does, but as I said, these guys, someone else is pulling the strings. These guys have an agenda. They have some other masters. I don't know. I don't know if it's the WEF or I don't know that. But when you look at their actions, why do they all seem so coordinated? This is exactly what they did in the UK and other parts of Europe. And they're doing the same thing here. I predicted this, guys. Okay, I've been saying this for a very long time. It's going to happen in Australia.
Net permanent long-time arrivals, 478,000 came into the country, but there are only 175,000 new homes built in Australia for the year up until March 26. But the more accurate net migration figure, I'm told, those coming in versus those leaving, is around the 300,000 mark.
Good, high-paying, high-skilled Aussies are leaving, and we're replacing them with these low-skilled people who don't understand Australia, Australian cultures, Australian values. They don't understand any of that, and we're replacing good, high-tax-paying Aussies with these people in the name of. In the UK, they said we need to save the NHS. Here, we need to build more houses. They're not even original.
Is 175,000 new homes enough for the migration we're getting?
We need to keep doing what we can to increase housing supply, and we need to make sure migration is tailored to what we can do there. If you go at migration the wrong way, then you can actually make the housing situation worse. So, for example, you know, something like more than a quarter of the various tradespeople who we rely on to build our homes are born overseas. Similarly, 60% of our GPs are born overseas. So we need to make sure that we are targeting the people who we need most in Australia, but also make sure that we don't inadvertently stop us from getting the people we need to be able to build the houses.
This is what they say, which is why they're incompetent and they should be sacked. I'm not challenging the numbers. Yes, maybe our 60% of our GPs are foreign born. We do need our GPs. It's a fact. And it's very difficult for someone to become a doctor. So that's a good one, okay? Good one. But construction workers, we are destroying our tradie industry. And even if we need someone, why do we need to bring their families? Why do we need to give them a pathway to citizenship? But that's not it. I acknowledge there's a shortfall. There's a shortage of skilled sparkies and plumbers and whatnot. But if we need them so badly and so urgently, then how come we're not getting them, but we're getting these people who are faking the documents that they're coming in? Have a listen to Pauline Hanson. Look at the reality of the targeted skilled visa program.
What's your detailed policy prescription for immigration? Of course, you want it lowered, but which programs do you intend lowering?
Well, your visas, even the foreign students coming in the country. Look at the number of visa holders that are coming in. They're applying for citizenship in Australia. Our citizenship will go out to 10 years before you can get citizenship. Cut your immigration back to 130,000. Look at the people bringing in the country. They're not skilled migrants at all. They're rubbish. We're bringing in people who say they're skilled migrants. Chris, they don't have the qualifications. We're actually drowning in these unskilled people. We're having, these constructions being built here not to Australian specifications.
So you would further cut the overseas student intake into this country. Labor's started to reduce it already. You would further cut the number of overseas students coming into this country, and you would cut back the skilled immigrants program.
The skilled immigrants, Chris, cripes. We've had 190,000 in permanent visas come in as if they're skilled. Guess what? Only 5,000 of them were actually skilled in the construction industry. And then you go back to
but you want to cut numbers.
This last year, 23.
I think they include the family members as well. Like if there's one skilled person who's got 5 family members, that's 5 visas. So we need doctors and nurses and construction workers. But what are we getting? This is exactly what they did in the UK, guys. So for every one nurse that would enter the UK to do some nursing jobs, because white people don't want to do that, she will bring in 5 or 6 other people, 5 dependents with her. Those dependents, her husband will probably do a cash in hand, low skill job, drive Uber Eats or something. And the kids, they'll get generous welfare payments, because Western countries have got generous welfare payments. And it worked for Westerners, because white people would only have 2 kids. I'm not even having that anymore. But these people come in with 3, 4, 5 kids. Oh, it's raining money. And then the husband doesn't need to work. They don't need to work. That's exactly what they did in the UK. This is exactly what they're doing in Australia. Centrelink bill is going to go through the roof. We've already got our own dole bludgers. We've already got us settling bumps. Now we're going to have, we've already got a lot of, non-Aussie Centrelink bumps. That scam has been going on for so long. Afghans, 6 or 7 kids. All these Middle Easterns, 6, 7 kids. And Aussies, probably 1 kid, not even. And that's how they destroyed the UK. That's how they're destroying Australia right before our eyes. But there is some hope, because Pauline Hanson, as I said, this guy, until very recently, was very popular. He's still too popular for my liking. Like who are these 30% of the people who still want to see Anthony Albanese? And I have no doubt, in my opinion, he is the worst prime minister. When history is written of this time, this guy will be remembered as what broke Australia. And if she becomes prime minister, then she saved it. People will see this. Well, guys, we are living in a very critical part of Western civilization's history. Every 70 years or so, something major happens. Obviously, we've had the 2 great wars. We had the Civil War. We had the Revolutionary War in America, and similar things were happening in Australia. We didn't have those kind of wars, but Australia was shielded because we were far away. So I'm going by the Anglo-American history. and European history to some extent. But something has to happen, because when you create systems, those systems work, but they only go for so long because bureaucracy kicks in, slight improvements, reforms, sharpening of processes kicks in, kind of like what we saw in England. It makes perfect sense to me why bureaucrats are now prioritizing women from Ghana and Pakistan and Afghanistan, giving them social housing, which, by the way, is going to happen here too, while British women, they're waiting for years to get housing. It's because they're pressure groups within complex governments, bureaucracy. They're pressure groups, they're NGOs. They're like, okay, please, we need that much funding. So that funding has to come from somewhere. So they slash 20% of the budget that was allocated to British women to more vulnerable women who are coming from foreign cultures. So that's how it works. All these systems are designed with best intentions, but then there comes a point that it becomes no longer sustainable. Centrelink worked great. Medicare in Australia worked for a very long time, but it's not going to work because you are modifying the social makeup of your country. These people who are coming in, they have different values. A white person does not want to go on Centrelink. I know that. I know so many Aussie friends who, because back in the day, even Centrelink used to be a bit more generous. We used to have JobKeeper allowance, and then it was changed to, hey, you have to show to us that you're actively looking for work. So people would stop, and people would actually go out and they will try to find work. I don't know about the Gen Z, but when you bring in people from Afghanistan or Ghana or Pakistan or Bangladesh or any of these countries where their governments don't give them a cent, okay, they don't give them anything over there. So they come to Australia, generous welfare country like Australia or Sweden or Britain. They're like, huh? The government? Am I going to get $600 per fortnight per kid? Why? Because I'm a low-income family? That's amazing. They love it. It's a totally different mindset. They love it. Whereas a white woman, even after popping out kids, would like to go back to work. She'd like to, want to do something with her life. That's what I mean by these systems that have been created with best intentions. They fall apart, especially when you change the social makeup, the cultural makeup. They tinkered with the fundamental values of the West and expected nothing will happen without changing the rules of the game. Well, you have to. If you are going to put restrictions on free speech, if you're going to import people from certain cultures, and obviously those cultures are different. If you bring in a lot of Hindus, you might have some other problems, but you're not going to have terrorist problems. If you bring in a lot of Muslims from the Middle East, there's going to be a lot of terrorism problems. Look, the numbers don't lie. We don't have to. There's nothing racist or bigoted about that. I am a former Muslim. Why am I shying away from telling you this? So they tinkered with fundamental values of Western civilization, and they didn't update or they didn't think about the consequences. Well, these are the consequences. So do not accept this. We don't need it. We need to train our own people. We need to focus on our tradies. Do not destroy the labor market. Do not destroy the construction industry. If we do need someone, and it's completely unavoidable, have very strict visa conditions. Like Pauline said, we gave in 190,000 skilled visas. Only 5,000 of them were construction workers. The rest, God knows what are they doing. They're going to be driving taxis and delivering Uber Eats delivery. That's what happens. That's what they do. So how's that good for anyone? It's not good for even those people who are coming here on false pretenses. They're going to become welfare dependent. They're going to destroy the entire... Again, I'm not telling you anything dramatically new. It has already happened in the UK. It's happened. It's done. The only difference is British Patriots they're at a cusp of blowing up, so to speak. Like, there are protests taking place in the UK every single day. Every single weekend. And it almost feels like that they're going to be riots. They've had a riot in Belfast. They had a mini riot in Southampton. And then obviously you remember 2 years ago, there were significant riots in the wake of the Southport massacre. That's what we mean by civil unrest. 2 illegal asylum seekers stabbed random people. That's going to... And look, we are already experiencing that to some extent. Like Australia also imported some people from war-torn Africa, and look what's happening. We've got a machete culture now. I talked about it recently, guys. We don't have a culture of those steel bars going through our windows. We don't have that culture. I've seen places in England where they have bars. I have never seen a house in Australia or in any Aussie suburb, like even some of the rough suburbs like Noble Park. Well, I don't know about it now. I haven't been there for a while. Windows, flimsy doors. You know why? Because no one breaks into our houses, but that is changing rapidly. Why? Because our politicians thought Australia could benefit from a little bit of diversity. Diversity for the sake of diversity. No, we don't need diversity. We need 90, I say that again, unashamedly. I have brown privilege. I would say 90%, 90 to 95% of Australia should be white. If that demographic starts changing, if it starts falling below 90%, then we have to deal with it internally. Kind of like how Japan was dealing with it. Well, even though Japan is now starting to go in the opposite direction. There's nothing wrong with that. And I'm not saying that just because they're white, because they cheapen the argument, they say this is racist. No, I'm saying that because white Aussies are the natural custodians of the civilization that built Australia, one of the most successful, prosperous, livable, beautiful countries in the world. Come on. We can't hide away from that. Who are the people who made Australia this wonderful that these people from all over the world are willing, begging, please let me in? And then they come here, and then they say, "Oh, it's not your country. You colonized this country. It's the Aboriginal land." Like, you didn't go to Australia. You didn't go to Aboriginal Australia when it was run by the Aboriginal community of Australia, and they try to exploit that. You came to Australia because of its strong infrastructure, because it's a prosperous country. That's why you came to that country. That country was built by these people. Therefore, we don't need to apologize. We don't need to say, you don't need to apologize for it. It's perfectly fine for Australia to remain white because of values of those people. That's it. Don't accept that, guys. Don't let Anthony Albanese and Tony Burke and these people ruin Australia. They're here. No one will even remember their names after 2028. Other than Anthony Albanese's name, which I am pretty sure will go down in history as the worst prime minister in Australia's history.